So our introduction to yoga therapy is going to begin at Coastal Bliss Yoga on Friday, November 18th at noon, and really looking forward to it. So the agenda itself, we're going to go through a lot of context setting to begin, but understanding what the heck is yoga therapy compared to yoga, what the general methods of therapeutic approach are, and the models that we could use in yoga. And from there, so again, sort of laying groundwork and trying things out. We talk about some of the ethical concerns about what we can and cannot offer as yoga therapists, and then get into the actual application of yoga therapy to issues in the tissues and other situations. And we'll end off the whole weekend with a bit of a discussion about what does it mean to practice as a yoga therapist and how do we do that? So the basic challenge we're going to be faced as we go through this weekend is balancing Western medicine versus yoga therapy. One intervention, take care of me, and the other is I'll take care of myself. So really understanding that dynamic is going to be, again, part of the weekend. One of the early questions is, well, what the heck is a yoga therapist anyhow? Well, he's not a physiotherapist, there's not a massage therapist, there's not a nutritional consultant, not a doctor. What is a yoga therapist? So we'll go into some depth about that and then dive more deeply into the therapeutic relationship that you engage a client with. So as a one-on-one thing, and how do we engage with a client through a whole life cycle of supports for that person. So lots of chat up to that point, and then we'll get into some baseline practice assessments. So looking at the person from different perspectives, from both a physical perspective and also breath and meditation perspectives, and understanding where they're at and what might then be appropriate for them in terms of a practice. We'll get into how we program that. So once we've got that basic assessment, how we program something that's going to be appropriate and doable for the client. And then we'll dive into practicing some of this stuff and applying it to ourselves. One of the things that we'll have out the back end of the weekend is a personal yoga therapy assessment. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive in and apply this and not just talk the whole weekend. So some of those approaches that we'll look at are using the gunas, the three different fundamental energies that yoga philosophy puts forwards. I like this one a lot, and I use it a lot in my classes. We'll dive a little bit into the whole issue of the subtle body, the causal body, and consider how we might offer supports to different aspects of a person's wholeness, and use that template. Particularly, we're going to dive in really deep into the use of the vayus, which is the feeling of energy within the body, and how we can use that feeling of energy to bring more sense of wholeness and wellness to a person. So we'll experience that one in some depth and explore it in some depth. I'll touch briefly on chakras. I'm not actually a big fan, believe it or not. I see it as a fairly advanced practice and a bit kind of esoteric. But we'll talk about that as well. And then the real transition comes in when we think about Ayurveda. Ayurveda is really sister science to yoga, and indeed it uses yoga to inform its interventions. So get into Ayurveda, and that transitions then into this notion called yoga chitikska, which is chitta vritti. It's an intelligent approach to understanding where a person's at, either needing to be calmed down or brought up a bit or balanced in terms of the interventions that might work for them. So we'll go into this Brahmana Langana model, how that might be applied, and then once your brain is completely full, like I said, there's a lot of content here. Once your brain is completely full, we will get into a fun discussion on is it appropriate for me to do this particular practice? Like, can I smudge the room? before doing this? Those kind of questions. Can I chant Om? I don't know. What do you think? We'll go through a way of considering those kind of questions. And then finally getting into applying all of this knowledge to some of the problems you might encounter with individuals, musculoskeletal things, wellness things, psychological things, chronic diseases, and also groups and classes. How do we do yoga therapy in a group context as opposed to an individual context? Lots of stuff that we can talk about there. And then, as I indicated, we'll end the weekend talking about yoga therapy as a business. Can I monetize this? Well, maybe. It's a possibility. So anyhow, really looking forward to seeing you guys coming up here in a couple of weeks. And if you got any questions about what we might or might not cover, happy to answer those. So see you soon. Watch out for the snow, the rain. Stay safe and do yoga.